Well, hello everyone. I am so excited to be here with you. We are going to have so much fun. Welcome to your last class of Cards for Him with Pink Fresh Studio Create and Connect. I'm Carissa Wiley. I'll be walking you through two fabulous cards today featuring the Fresh Start bundle, and we're going to have a good time. So listen up, y'all. Listen up. I am just, I'm thrilled to be here again with Pink Fresh Studio. I think these events are so much fun. I love answering your questions, chatting with you as we go along, and I will do my best to keep up. But if I miss something, Jody is here with me to help you all out, and she can message me, and we're just gonna have a good time. That's really what we want to do. I have just a couple of rules for my classes. Number one is you do you, boo. If I tend to use a lot of dimension, and that's just my things. I like big cards, and I cannot lie. So if I'm putting dimension on something that you don't want to put dimension on, don't feel the pressure to do that. If it's not something that you feel like you can use or mail, make it flat. Doesn't bother me at all, but I do want you to have a good time. The second rule is I just let's have a good time. Don't worry about keeping up. You can always go back and watch me over and over again because I know that's what you live for. I'm just kidding. But hopefully you had some time to get your homework done and you are ready to go. I honestly think that we might finish early. I'm not sure, but I do want to go over one thing in one of my make and takes with you, and that was the moon, because I saw some questions about that yesterday. So if we get to the end and I forget to do that, let me know. We're going to do that. So without further ado, let's get down to the desktop and look at what we're creating today. A couple of cards for him. Now, I realize that some of this can have some elements that feel more feminine. And when I refer to that, it's probably more like the leafery here. So I'm going to give you some options when we get to that. All of the blending that I'm doing, there's multiple colors on each stencil. So I'm going to say it a couple of times, but if you get lost along the way, know that this is all in your instructions because I'm just looking at my instructions too. So we're going to start by actually just stamping our elements and getting everything stenciled. So we're going to bring out our Fresh Start stamp set, and we need this image set here at the bottom. Now we are doing some embossing, and I gave you the option of doing this as part of your homework. So for those of you who have the stamping and embossing already done, then you're ahead of the game. You've just made your day a little more relaxed, and we can chat and interact in the comments. I'm going to stamp using my Misty stamping tool. And so I have a panel of 5.5 by 8.5 inch cardstock. Now I had you cut this for your homework. And the reason is that we're going to stamp one section here, and then we're going to rotate and we're going to stamp another because we actually need a couple of these elements a couple of times. So, we need to have we don't need two of everything, but we're going to make two of everything. And then you're going to have some elements that you can use in some future cards. So you're going to walk away with more than what you need. And that's totally fine. I think sometimes when you're doing things like this, creating an extra one as you go along can be a really easy way to just have some stuff on hand. So I don't know. I know there's a lot of talk about Jeff's camera. I don't know what camera he's using. And Jeff, if you're watching, I know you can totally text me and tell me, or you can drop it in the comments. But I do know that we're using a online streaming thing called Ecamm Live. And that's what I use for all of my lives on Face or on YouTube. So, and I use it when I go live on Pink Fresh Studio channel. So I've started out with my white cardstock, and I did prep the surface of the cardstock using a powder tool. And then I'm going to grab my embossing ink. So this is Versamark. It's a clear sticky ink. I actually took some time to re-ink mine yesterday because I knew I was going to be doing some embossing. And the other day when I went to go do some heat embossing, I found that I was having to stamp a couple of times. So if that's you if you feel like you're not getting like a good coverage on your stamp as you go along, then it might be time to re-ink your Versamark ink pad. Also, I'm putting my arm out here. My hands are white. My arms are tan. That's because I did some self-tanner. I have no shame. I'm a ginger. We just don't tan. And if I want some color in the summer, I got to paint it on, you know? So don't be distracted. So I'm just stamping this down in some Versamark ink or whatever embossing ink. And then just a little tip is you can kind of look and see to make sure you got everything stamped. And I can see that I did not get enough pressure there in the center. So I'm just gonna do it all. Someone maybe needs to let Barbara know that she needs to refresh her screen because it seems like she doesn't know that I've started. And so if someone could just let her know to refresh. Now I'm going to ink one more time and just stamp this on here. And if you're uncomfortable, sure, Lori, I can do that. If you're uncomfortable, like without adding the embossing powder right away, then you can go ahead and add your gold embossing powder. Or I'm just probably going to flip and restamp a couple of times and then do all of my embossing powder at once. Okay, so I'm just looking here. I'm having I can see what I'm having a hard time with, and it is these little utensils here in the center. So let me get through this stamping, Lori, and then I'll give you a little, just show you how I emboss or re-inked. Okay, that has a ton of ink on all the things. So now I'm just going to pick this up and I'm going to rotate it. So my stamping's now at the top and my open area of my cardstock is at the bottom. And then I can grab my powder tool again and powder up my area. So this one just put out a ton of powder. That's okay. We'll just do this little blow off there. And then we will ink again with the Versamark and stamp. So, as I mentioned, if you did this for homework, you're like ahead of the game. So good job. Thank you for whoever told Scattered Confetti. Thank you for letting Barbara know that she needs to probably refresh. So let's see. I'm having the little utensils are what I'm having an issue with. So I'm just kind of tilting it in the light, seeing if I have ink everywhere. I might just ink one more time. You know that old saying, measure twice, cut once. Well, this is ink twice, stamp twice, emboss once. So we're just going to do that there. How's your Sunday? Are you guys enjoying your class? I didn't get to come into a lot of classes today. I actually headed off to church this morning and just got home in time to eat a little something before we went live so that we could all be here together. And so I came in like at the end of Jeff's class, and it seems like everybody was having a really good time. So I'm thrilled for that. Now that my stamping is done, I'm going to grab a piece of scrap paper, and I'm trying to find a paper that's not like teaching notes from church. So with all the scriptures on it and stuff. So I have a piece of scrap paper here, and I'm going to keep this scrap paper out because we'll use it again here in just a bit. And I'm going to pour my embossing powder over the areas that I've stamped. So I'm using gold today. The reason I chose gold is that a lot of the colors that we're using for like the pancakes and such are very warm. They're like the browns and the like creamy, buttery colors. And so I just thought the gold would look good. Now, you could definitely change this up because remember, the only rule is that you need to like this in the end. You don't have to do things exactly as I do them. And so if this is not your jam, another option would be to just stamp this in black. It is going to change the overall vibe, I think, to do this in black just because It's going to give it some harsher lines. And I can also see that my pad was really juicy for this one and a little less juicy for that one, but that's okay. My lines will just be a little thicker, but if your lines are a little thick and you have just inked your pad, that could be it. So I am going to just flick off the extra embossing powder, and I am going to I'll just take the tip of my tweezers. I have a little spot right here where like there's some embossing powder hanging on that I don't want. So I'm just gonna like knock it loose with the edge of my tweezers and then just give it a little kiss of air with my mouth, and then just a little blow there, and then remove that. So once we have that done, I'm gonna go ahead and heat emboss, okay? So what you wanna do when you're heat embossing, especially large areas like this, is you're gonna wanna start by making sure that your ink tool or your heat tool gets nice and warm before you take it to your cardstock. That's gonna minimize your warping. So we're gonna turn this on. I'm gonna turn it on to 2, and I'm gonna just let it heat up for just a second. I'm gonna kind of hold it away from my body because my microphone's right here, and I don't want you all to like, you know, have to listen to that. Sharon says she decided to stamp in a medium brown, and that is a great choice as well. I would agree. I think like a platinum embossing powder could be fun, but it's not quite as warm. And if you know me at all, if you've been around for a while, you know that I love stuff that shines and sparkles. And so this is just my way of bringing a little shine into this without it being glitter or sequins or something like that. So I've let this heat up, and now I'm gonna start by just kind of going over the entire area. I'm just kind of warming the paper up just a little. You can heat from the back as well. You can see I am moving the heat tool around. I'm not leaving it in one spot for too long. And I'm just gonna kind of just move my heat tool around. I'm not super close. And this is gonna take longer to heat emboss this way, but your results are probably gonna be better in the long run. So it's a game of patience, not of speed. So we'll just go, and as it starts to melt, once it melts completely, then you just want to move on, right? You don't want to keep heating a spot where the embossing powder is melted. And how do you know that the embossing powder is melted? Well, your embossing powder should turn shiny, and it should be smooth. So you shouldn't see any grain in them. Oh, someone's formal dishes have a gold rim and they're hand wash only. Yeah, I don't even use formal dishes. Honestly, I remember like, you know, the wedding registry and having to have all that. And I'm not even sure why I thought I had to have all that. But, you know, I'm over that part of my life. Okay. So I think we're pretty good. And then I like to tilt it in the light, make sure I'm not seeing any dark or grainy areas. If I'm seeing a dark or grainy area, I'm just going to go ahead and hit it with my heat tool, and then I will be done. Oh, good. You did your stamping and embossing last night. That's perfect. So you're ahead of the game. I'm just going to like cool this down. Joanne says, my energy is the perfect way to end the day. Well, we're going to have fun. So, I mean, like I came to bring the energy because I know you've all been crafting all day. You're probably tired, but we are going to have some fun today. So you're going to need your stencils, and I've put my stencils in order in case you didn't know this. They are marked in the upper right hand, nope, that's my left hand, upper left hand corner, and it will show the number, okay? You'll also have some like registration marks on your stencils. They look like little corners. Those are helpful if you're stamping on an A2 size panel, but we're not going to use those today because we're going to line them up with the images that we've already stamped. So I'm going to work through, rather than doing this and then twisting and turning, we're going to work through one set of images and then we'll work through the other. Now, there's a couple of ways you can secure your stencil in place. You can do some repositionable adhesive. You can do a grip mat, however you want to do. I can tell it's been a long and fun weekend. I did this already, and the sound of the heat tool had me zoning out for a minute. It's good white noise. Who would have thought? Okay, so I'm going to use a grip mat, and it's not going to be large enough, or the stencil is going to be too small to actually be held in place by my grip mat, but it will hold my cardstock in place. It will give me a place to put my ink pad, and I can I'll start by lining this up, and I kind of got to get my head in here. Okay, and then I'm going to hold this down. Now, there's some areas that you can either then hold down with a magnet, or you can hold it down with some repositionable tape, however works for you. Now, as I mentioned before, we have a lot of colors on each stencil layer. So just stick with me. We're going to start with Lemon Whip, Dough, and Warm Buff, okay? So I'm going to grab those, Lemon Whip, Dough, and Warm Buff. And I apologize for doing this to you, but it really was just the way that it worked out. So Lemon Whip. Oh, I was going to show you how to re-ink the ink pads. Remind me at the end and we will do that, okay? Let's see. Lemon Whip. I'm going to grab I'm using the 1/2-inch blending brushes because then I don't have to like mask anything off. And so I'm going to do the butter with the Lemon Whip, okay? Just the butter. That's it. I like to keep a microfiber cloth and just wipe that down. I'm not going to clean my stencils. I'm skipping the plate. I'm just leaving my plate white. If this helps you, you can take like a Post-it and just be like, nope, don't go there. Okay? Piece of paper, another stencil, something like that can help you, do that. So then we're going to go to dough for the pancakes. So this is dough. This is like a medium brown. The browns from Pink Fresh are just beautiful. Really good browns. Just good, just good. All right, so we're going to do dough for just the pancakes. So it's a very small area right here. Okay? So dough on the pancakes. Now, if you did Warm Buff instead, is anybody going to notice? Probably not. So if it makes you feel better because it's not as stressful or it's not as complicated to do Warm Buff over the other things, then just do Warm Buff. Remember, we're having a good time. We're not stressing about it. We're just having a good time. Then we're going to do Warm Buff for the rest, but we're going to skip the plate. Okay? So we're just going to go here with a light layer. And we're swirling in one direction and then in the other. And most of this is pretty light layers, okay? I'm trying to find my cards. Let me see. Yeah, pretty light layers. But you could do it however you want. You can do some gradient if you want. You could just be quick about it if you want. I think I was pretty quick about it when I did these. So I'm just going to you guys are quiet. You must be working away. I love that. Okay. I'm going to leave Warm Buff out because I'm going to need it for my next stencil. So that was stencil 2 because stencil 1 is our placemat. I'm going to take that off and we're going to move to stencil 3. Now I'm going to position this quickly, and we're doing a lot of stenciling here, but this is the largest part of both of our cards. So I'll just get this lined up. My head is in the way. I'm sorry. That is one of the best tips I can give you for stenciling, is that just get your head over it so you can see it, Okay, so I'm going to hold that in place, and then we're going to go with Warm Buff for the pancakes. So we just had that. We're going to do that. We're going to do dough for the espresso, toast, and mini biscuits, and then we're going to do Lemon Whip and Warm Buff for the croissant. So leave the Warm Buff out. Actually, let's do this. Okay, sorry. Start with the Lemon Whip, and here's why. because then when we go to the warm buff, we can just go over it. We're just gonna add a little bit of warm buff, or I'm sorry, with the lemon whip to the croissant. And that's because I wanted the croissant to have that buttery undertone. Okay, so we're actually layering a couple of colors to create our own custom color. And then we're going to warm buff for the pancakes and the croissant. So we have warm buff. We're going to pancakes. All of my ink pads really probably need, and then we'll go over the croissant, probably need to be re-inked. And if you wanted to, you could technically use warm buff for everything and then just build up various like depths of it. So you don't have to, but look at the difference of the undertone now with the lemon whip and the warm buff over it versus just the warm buff by itself. So you get kind of that buttery undertone. Okay, so we did warm buff on the pancakes and the croissant. Yeah, I know I pivoted so that we wouldn't have to go back to warm buff. Okay, now we're gonna take dough and we're gonna do the rest. Okay, so we've already done pancakes and croissant, so we're just gonna do dough with the rest. Okay. And honestly, these areas are just smaller areas, so we don't have to focus a lot on our blending technique here. Okay, so now I'm just gonna wipe and we're gonna go on to the next stencil. All right, so there's that. Okay, so we're getting various tones of brown. Now I'm keeping my stencils in order because we will go back to them. All right, so stencil number 4. We're lining it up. I'm mostly looking at the mug and the silverware because I'm not gonna, am I gonna do the plate? Yes, I am. Lies. It's been a minute since I designed these cards, so I'm just gonna line this up as best I can. We're not gonna get like crazy about it. We're gonna do our best. And stencil number 4, we're gonna do Lush Forest and Misty Coast. So I'm just setting those aside. I'm gonna grab Misty Coast, which is a light gray that we're gonna do for the silverware, and Lush Forest, okay? So let's do the silverware first in Misty Coast. All right, so Misty Coast is the silverware. Just a light gray. All right. And then we're gonna do Lush Forest for the rest. Now, some of you may need that visual reminder that you've already done your ink blending on your silverware. So if you want to grab your little like Post-it or something and cover that up as a visual reminder, you can. So Lush Forest is going to be the rest. And if you don't get it exactly like mine, like say you used olive here instead of Lush Forest, I mean, there's no card police that's showing up at your house. So you, like I said, you do you, boo. Do what makes your heart sing. All right. So Lush Forest, Lush Forest. I love these mugs in Lush Forest. Now, when I was kind of thinking about my color schemes, I really wanted something. I feel like a lot of times when we do cards for men, we tend to lean to the blues, and I really wanted us to get away from the blues, although everybody in this class did such a great job. I feel like the blues and the purples made a lot of sense for Annette's product line with that sky and that sort of thing. But for the other cards, I noticed that everybody did a really great job like bringing in various colors. Okay, so that was stencil number 4. I'm gonna do that. And then stencil number 5 is all in olive. Okay, so this is green, green, green. Now, why are we doing a different color green? You don't have to. I just like the variations in greens. So we're going to use olive. Lush Forest would look beautiful here too. This is a little bit brighter of a green than the Lush Forest is. And olive, honestly, is one of my favorite greens in the Pink Fresh line. Now again, you can spend as little or as much time creating variation in your blending as you want to. I feel like these images are small enough that I don't need to do a lot of that. So just a quick layer of olive there. And then we're going to move on to our final stencil. And again, we have some various colors that we're going to go to. So we're going to line this up, looking down through the stencil, and hold it in place. And I'm looking at gathered twigs for the syrup. So let's just do that. That's the darkest of the browns that we're using today. Love this color. So let's just do gathered twigs. Cover that with some glossy accents and call it good enough to eat. Okay, so gathered twigs for the syrup. And then we're going to do Berrylicious for the cup portion, or for the jam cup and the strawberries. So that's a red. Could totally do oranges here if you wanted to. So Berrylicious. You guys doing okay? Flowers on 5. There's no flowers on 5. The flowers are on 6. So the flowers that I think you might be thinking you're seeing on 5 are actually the tops of the strawberries. So look out for that. Okay, so jam cup and strawberries and Berrylicious. Ooh, such a good red. Such a good red. Okay, and then the flowers are in Clementine. Now, here's the deal. I love the green and the orange together, but if you want this to look a little quote unquote less feminine here, you could do these in a green instead, and this would be all greenery, but I love the pops of oranges. So I'm coming in with Clementine, and we will do the florals. So those are up here and down here. So the green and the orange together are just absolutely beautiful. Okay, so now we are done with one set of our stenciling. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna rotate around and we're gonna do it all again. I know, trust me, I thought twice about doing this because it is a lot of stenciling, but you're gonna go away with some extra images that you can use to build some bonus cards. So when I'm using a grip mat, I love to just take this and roll my mat away from my paper rather than pull the paper off. And this grip mat, he got a bath the other day, so he is sticking good. Okay, so I'm gonna rotate this around. I could have just rotated the grip mat. You guys, help me out here. It's such a, quite a weekend. Lots going on. People are graduating, and we're just, you know, my husband's just getting back into town. He's been gone for about 4 days. So he's getting back into town. And so it's a busy but good time, you know? So let's do this again. Lemon whip for the butter. Okay. So I'm just going back to my instructions again. We're going to do lemon whip for the butter. Okay, just like that. We're going to do dough for the pancakes. So a quick little, I actually have quite a bit. Remember, we're skipping the plate, so I'm just kind of not going over that area. And this is why the 1/2-inch blending brushes on this really makes sense, because we're doing a lot of different colors on one stencil, and a smaller brush in this case can really make our life a lot easier because we're not having to mask off to use larger brushes. So that's why I opted really for the 1/2 inch blending brushes on my project. We will use some of the larger ones here in just a minute. But you know, I know that it's not popular to think that you need all the brushes, but you need all the brushes. The smaller ones do have their time and place, right? So we're going to hang on to Lemon Whip and Warm Buff because we'll use them on stencil 3. So that was stencil 2. Let's go to stencil 3. We're going to line that up and just looking down through the stencil to make sure I get it into position. And we're going to do dun, da, 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 Lemon Whip on our croissant first. So just a little light layer coming through the brown. And if you didn't like your croissant the first time, I think you have like a do-over here. Like you can add more or less yellow. I think I'm going to add more. More yellow this time and less brown. Okay, so Lemon Whip on our croissant. And then we're going to go Warm Buff on the pancakes and the croissant. So Warm Buff, I know this is a lot, and trust me, we're going to get easier, okay? Once we get through this. So Warm Buff, croissant, and pancakes. Croissant and pancakes are Warm Buff, okay? And as I mentioned, you kind of get a do-over. So like if you didn't love all of your images the first time, you can kind of redo a couple of them. Like do them in different intensities. Okay, Lemon Whip, Warm Buff, and we're going to go to dough for the espresso and the rest of the little pieces here. So dough, dough, dough. This little mini pie, I have no idea what it is. What is this? Is this like a little quiche? What is this? Someone help me out. I love making extras. It's so efficient. It saves so much time taking everything out again and avoiding. Yes, so you will have extras. Teresa says she'll be watching the videos many times to create variations, and I love that. Okay, stencil 4. This is Lush Forest and Misty Coast, so we'll just get it lined up here. We'll do our Misty Coast first for our utensils. So we're going to go Misty Coast. For utensils, you could even do them a different color this time if you wanted. We're only using one set of the utensils. So if you wanted to use something different this time, you could. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my little reminder piece of tape that I've already done my utensils. And I'm going to grab my Lush Forest and do everything else. How many times did Carissa make these cards to get the perfect color combos? Oy vey, the time and prep. Actually, you don't want to know this, but I just did them once. We just did them once. Let's see. I don't feel like the stencil is quite where I need it to be, so I'm just readjusting. Okay, now we're good. All right. I love the little espresso mug. Okay. Oops. Now these images are also small, so if you don't have like the full-size ink pads and you have the smaller brushes and these smaller images, the little ink cubes are great because that can save a little space on your work surface as well. So we're gonna just wipe this up. And my goal in my head was to be done with this, all of the stenciling in about 45 minutes time, and we're gonna beat that. So I think we're gonna be good. Okay, stencil 5 is going to be all olive, okay? All olive. So we're gonna line that up. And there are no flowers on this one. I know they kind of look like flowers, but they are actually the tops of the strawberries. So olive for this. All right, you guys doing okay? I'm gonna give you a second to catch up when we're done with this, and then we'll move on, okay? So if you're struggling with all the switching between, I get it. That is a lot. And so I apologize. Okay, so we have stencil 5 is all olive. Then we're gonna go to stencil 6. Yes, the images being stamped and cut out like all at once, fantastic. So smart. Okay, so let's get this all lined up. Once I get it lined up, we're gonna lock it into place. We're gonna go with gathered twigs for the syrup. That's the only part that we're doing in gathered twigs. So syrup is gathered twigs or any other brown that you have. Maybe this is the one that you want to experiment with. Then we're going to use Berrylicious, love this red, for our strawberries and our jam cup. Okay. And then we're going to go to Clementine for our florals. Love this pop of orange with the greens and the grays. I think it's just a fun. Biscuits, cookies. Yes, biscuit is different depending on where you are. Agreed. Okay. Let's do Clementine for the florals. Okay. And then I'm gonna clean up here. Cleaning up my stencil. And I'm going to pull these all up. I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to pull this off of my mat. And if you're still stenciling, just finish yourself up. You're good. You have time. Biscuits, crackers, however, like Carissa, it says you do you. Oh, I totally think that this is a Pop-Tart card. We're making a Pop-Tart here is really what we're making. I know that they're called like dotted, nested, deckled rectangles, and they have like a million words in the title. But I think they're Pop-Tarts. So there you go. Okay, so let's talk real quick while you are all finishing up your ink blending. Let's have a little chat about re-inking that Versamark ink pad. And for whatever reason, I can't find, oh, it's in the drawer where it belongs. Okay, so here's how I re-inked. I have my re-inker, okay? And what I did was and this ink is very thick. So if you're using like a dye ink, you wouldn't need to squeeze as hard. But what I basically did was just kind of squeezed out the ink and then went back and forth across the pad, okay? And I just inked it up. And you just kind of have to look at your pad and see how much is being absorbed. Now, you can see a lot of it is sitting on the top of my ink pad right now. And that's because this is a thicker ink. So then I would just take, because this is a rounded tip on my re-inker, I can just take and kind of massage it in without squeezing. So if it's really sitting on the top, then you may have to just kind of massage it in without squeezing any more ink. And that's how I re-inked. And then as you use it, you may find that, you know, like, oh, I have too much. My lines got blown out. But as you use it, it's quickly going to just all meld in there, nestle in, and you're going to be great. So that's how you re-ink your ink pads. The same thing is kind of true of the dye inks, only the ink is going to be more fluid, and you will notice it, especially on the felt pads, like the Pink Fresh Studio pads. As you re-ink it, it's going to suck in immediately. So you shouldn't see a lot of ink sitting on the surface of your felt ink pads. Okay, now I know in the instructions it says that we should go on to die cutting these, but we're going to do all of our die cutting at once. So we're going to go on to our placemat instead. Now you have two options for your placemat. One would be to stencil onto a die cut version. So I have all of my homework here. So you could take one of these and just lay it behind your stencil, kind of lay your piece in there and stencil onto it. Or you can stencil this stencil onto a panel of white cardstock and then cut it out. Now, if you're feeling like you may not be able to die cut this out, then what I would recommend doing is stenciling directly onto the die cut itself. Now, the best way to do that, especially if you don't have a grip mat, is just take some Post-it tape or something like that, place it on the back of your placemat, and then take your stencil and go right over the top, just lining it up. Now, honestly, do you need to do this right here? No. You could totally skip this part and just go into a light layer of Misty Coast over. But for those of you who want to stencil onto a panel of cardstock and then die cut it out, hold up. I'm going to show you that in just a minute, okay? You can also weigh your ink pad and only add enough re-inker to hit the weight. Yeah, you could do that, totally. So if you have this die cut and you want to do this, I'm just taking the 1-inch blending brush and some Misty Coast ink and going around the edge, okay? I'm not coloring really this whole thing with Misty Coast ink. I'm just adding a light shadow around the edge, just so we're not like completely stark white, okay? Now, for those of you who would rather stencil on a panel and then die cut, let me show you how you would do that, okay? If you have an A2 size panel, which I happen to have right here, then you're going to take this, and there are registration marks at the top of this, okay? So you have a registration mark here and a registration mark here, and you have 2 at the bottom. Boom and boom. There's also some in between. We're not going to use those. We're just going to take an A2 panel and we're going to line it up with the 4 corner registration marks. So I'm just getting it in there. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it should kind of fall into line with all 4 corner registration marks. Then you can just take this, hold it in place with some repositionable tape, do it on your grip mat, however is good for you, okay? So we're just lined up with the registration marks in the corner. And I wish I could show you better, but I can't. Now, because, you know, the camera just doesn't pick it up. I'm going to take my scrap paper and just cover up the bottom of this. And then I'm going to grab my Misty Coast, okay? And we're going to ink this up, okay? So again, my goal is not to make the whole thing gray, rather to just give some shading and shadow around it. And this is where the 1-inch blending brushes really shine, because you can get a nice soft blend without like big globs of color, because the bristles are nice and soft and kind of fanned out. So I'm just going to go around here, okay? Just like that. A little shading, a little shadow, a little shading, a little shadow, you know, just doing that. Okay. Now I'm going to wipe the stencil. I'm going to take the stencil and remove it. And I'm going to rotate it. Okay, so all I did was take the bottom and rotate it around to the top. And again, I am going to line it up with those same registration marks that I did before. So in the 4 corners. You guys with me here? So there's 2 options. You can do it on the die cut piece and just add a little shading. And then this one, what we're going to do, you could make all of these one color if that's where you're at in your life and you want to like just make it simple, do all of them in one color. If you want to do it like I did it, let's see, what did I do? I got to look at my instructions. I know one is olive and the other one is olive and rocky slope. Okay, so the medium. Okay, I just have this up here as my little cheat. So let's do this. So olive is going to be 1 and 3. Now, if you feel like you need to mask, go ahead and mask, okay? If you are brave, you can just, with the 1/2 inch blending brush, just carefully come in. And that's where these, like I said, the 1/2 inch blending brushes really have their spot, because you can get in here if you're careful and you don't have to do any masking. So stripe 1, olive, stripe 3, olive, or do them all olive. That's fine with me. I just did an alternating stripe pattern. Okay. So I'm just going through. They're a little darker on the edge, a little lighter in the middle. Someone asked if I've ever watercolored with a stencil. I have not. I have not ever also used alcohol inks with a stencil because I think it would make more sense to, just color with a marker rather than try to, I guess maybe you could color with the marker the solid open areas and then use the stencils for the shading. That would be an idea if you were going to use alcohol markers. The thing about alcohol markers is they're going to dry onto your stencils, and you will have to clean your stencils to get that ink off using some rubbing alcohol, which is what I use anyway. Okay, so stripe 1 and 3 are olive. Stripes 2 and 4 are rocky slope. So we'll grab our rocky slope and we'll do that. Oh, thank you, Frederica. Thank you. That's so sweet. I hope that there's value in this and that you're inspired when you leave here. Those are my goals when I teach. And I hope you feel connected to me in some way, because I love connecting with all of you. Okay, stripes 2 and 4 are rocky slope. Who wants to come be my assistant for a week and just like re-ink all my ink pads and do all the things that I just never have time to do? You can stay with me. Looks like my sister's plates with the green. Will there be additions to the set like bacon, eggs, hash browns, biscuits, and gravy, etc.? Well, Holly, I don't know that there will be. And the reason is that these products are now exclusive to the event. So these products will not be released except for the essentials, which would be your dotted, nested, deckled Pop-Tarts or rectangles. So though the essentials like the cover plate may be released in the Pink Fresh Studio shop, but the actual stamp set not. And so I'm not sure that marketing the bacon and eggs and stuff on their own would make a lot of sense. Now, if you stenciled onto your die cut placemat, you would just line up your stripes onto that die cut right there in the center. You can kind of see that dotted line, the dotted area of your placemat kind of nestles right around the stripe area, and then you would just stencil all that. Okay, so this is what our placemat looks like. So that's good to go. We're going to die cut that here in just a minute. And then because we want to do all of our stamping and die cutting all at once, let's go ahead and stamp our sentiment, because then we can just, die cut everything. We're not pulling up things and all of that. So we're going to do the Happy Father's Day. Again, I need to look at my colors that I use just to make sure I'm doing it the same. And that is in Metropolis. So I'm just going to take this off. This may kind of freak you out because I'm going to put this away without cleaning it, but Versamark ink really will not hurt. Now, this is Versamark. This is not, I don't know what kind of embossing ink you're using, but Versamark ink will not hurt the stamp or the ink pads in the future if it's not cleaned up. So I'm going to grab the Happy Father's Day Buffalo Plaid. Yes, you could rotate this and totally do a buffalo or a plaid pattern. So on the bottom of my placemat piece, I'm just going to stamp this in Metropolis. So I have that lined up. I'm just going to pick it up with my Misty stamping tool, and we're going to do Metropolis. So we're going to work through all the stamping and die cutting. Then we'll go through, we'll color our stripes, and then we'll stamping, die cutting, then we'll color our stripes, and then we'll start assembling, okay? So happy Father's Day. I'm going to ink this up. I love this big, bold sentiment. Okay, now I'm going to stamp it. And I am going to use, if I can find it, I cannot. I have, oh, there it is, my little pressure tool. I know, I love this one too. No more scenes will be released for the lantern. I know, sad, but I bet you have, you know what would be really cute with the lantern is there is like a leafy branch that I'm thinking of from Pink Fresh Studio that you could mask off the edge of the lantern and stamp that branch in there and color the background around it and then stencil the branch inside of the lantern, and that would be a fun way to change up that lantern. I did not get the lantern set, so I didn't get to play with that, but how fun would that be? Okay, Metropolis. Isn't that a fabulous gray? Let's just wipe this guy down real quick and put him away. And then we're going to go through and die cut everything. All 5 product suites in the event are exclusive to the event and will not be released in the main Pink Fresh shop. So yes, that is true. I did know that. Okay. So now let's do our die cutting. So we'll grab our dies. We're going to do all our die cutting at once. Florals in the lantern would be so much fun. Florals, greenery, some clouds. I think all of that could work really fun. Okay, so here's your placemat die. Go ahead and just nestle it in there. And the best way I can tell you to line this up is to just look down and make sure that your stripes are parallel inside of there and that you have an equal distance between the stripes and the sides all the way around. Then you can just hold it in place with a little bit of repositionable tape. I'm going to do the same thing with my Happy Father's Day die. So I'm just going to grab this. I have all of these tapes that I've been using for my stenciling. I am going to line that up, making sure that all of my borders are kind of equal. The white space around the die is equal. Hold that in place with some repositionable tape. I'm going to position all my dies first, then I'll go through and die cut them all. Okay, and I know we're an hour in, but we've done all the work that we really need to do for card number 2 with all this stenciling. So that was a huge portion of both of the cards. Okay, so we're going to line this up. We're going to do the best that we can. Remember, we get 2 shots. We're not going to use everything from every stenciling. So we're just going to line this up. And we're going to hold that in place. And then I'm going to start just cranking all these through the die cut machine. So I use an Anna Griffin Empress, but you saw me hold them in place with some repositionable tape anyway. So you can just start cranking or running it through whatever you have, okay? So we'll have all of this die cut out and ready to go. You may want to have just like a little container on hand or a dish or something that you can pop all of these out into. So I'm just going to do that. All right. And then as you're doing this, maybe just figure out which plate you like better. Put an example of the new rose washi tape with the lantern in the album this morning. I had to try it with flowers. Ooh, that sounds beautiful. I'm going to have to go and look at that. And as I mentioned, I didn't really get to check out Yana's class because I was in church this morning, but that sounds really fun. Okay, let's line this guy up again. Do our best. We're not perfect, but we're gonna do our best. Hold it in place and then run that through the die cut machine again. Are you guys doing okay? Are you doing okay? The hard part's done. So take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. The hard part is done. I know we pushed through that stenciling. That was a lot of stenciling there at the beginning. Cut in half top to bottom and have it as a backdrop on the set foreground in the picnic. Oh, that's fun. Marianne, that's a fun idea. Okay, so I'm just popping these all into a little container so I can find them all when we go back to use them, and then I'll put my die away, and then I have both of these ready to go. We'll place that, and then we will go through the die cut machine again. Then we will have our placemat and our sentiment. Okay. Let's do this. That really stuck. Okay, so there's our little placemat. Okay, let's save those little pieces for the next time we die cut. And I had you die cut a couple of sentiments ahead of time. Again, totally optional. It's something that is an easy way to add some dimension to your card, but totally optional. So if there's something that you want to skip and it's this, totally fine. Okay. I like to give you options along the way. So this can all go in the trash. This is done. Happy Father's Day. We'll set that aside because we're going to use that die set again for just a sentiment because we have all of our images done. Now I'm going to set this aside and we're going to go to our little strips. So these are all the things that we cut for this card. We have 2 of the large Pop-Tarts. We have 1 panel that's, I can't remember, 2 layers of this, and then we have these 3 strips. Now, for the strips, we are going to swipe the pads directly over. We have 1 strip that's a little bit wider, and it's the 1/4 inch strip. Okay, so this is where my handy dandy scrap paper is going to come into play. I'm going to show you how to do this. So we're going to do 1 in Lush Forest and 1 in Rocky Slope that are our smaller ones. So let's just get our colors out. Rocky Slope, Olive, and Lush Forest. There you are. So the widest of the 3 stripes, okay? So we have 3 stripes. We have 2 1/8 inch stripes and 1 1/4 inch stripe. For the widest one, we're going to use Olive. So Olive first, big stripe Olive, okay? Olive, big stripe. Let me show you how I'm going to do this. So I'm going to take my ink pad and I am going to hold my strip, okay? Just at the tip. Now we won't need the whole length of the strip, but this is why I had you cut it long because then you have a place to kind of grip. I'm going to place my ink pad down and I'm going to pull my strip out, okay? Now, you're going to notice that you might have some streaky areas. So all you're going to do is do it again and pull this through, and then you have a colored cardstock strip that perfectly matches your ink, okay? We're going to do that with the smaller ones now. For one of the smaller ones, we're going to use the Rocky Slope. So again, I'm holding on to the end and I'm just pulling the strip through just like that. And then if you want to smooth it out a little bit, you can do another time, okay? Isn't this fun? Isn't this an easy way to make your own colored cardstock for just a few strips? Now, stripes, strips, all of them, so great for masculine cards. And when you want them to coordinate really well, then just use the inks that you're using. Okay, so again, third strip is Lush Forest. It's a small strip. And if your ink pad is well inked, like this Lush Forest, I feel like I only need one time on that. Okay. So we have our colored cardstock strips. We're gonna just set them to the side and kind of let them dry. And what we'll do is we'll start assembling some of our items. So I'm gonna start with my sentiment first. I'm gonna take my liquid glue. Isn't this fun? I know I love to ink strips like that. And if you cut them just a little bit bigger, then you have that kind of grip. So I have the liquid glue here, and you can just kind of squeeze a little out and then use the tip of it to kind of spread some of that out. Like if you get too much in one area, you can just use the tip without squeezing, just kind of like we did with the re-inker. And I like to put my glue on my 2 plain white pieces. Now, if you are feeling, remember there's no really being behind, but if you're feeling like you're behind and this is something you want to skip, then this is just some layering that's optional. Okay, so I'm going to take liquid glue on both of the front sides of these white die cuts for my sentiment. Okay. Excuse me. I get bubbles in my throat when I'm talking for a long time live. I find it happens. I think I swallow a lot of air when I'm chatting with all of you. Okay, you guys doing okay? You with me here? Again, this is optional. Okay, I love pancakes and picnics. My dad used to make pancakes with us every Sunday morning. How fun. Okay, so once I have the ink, or the glue on the front side of these, then I pick up the stamped one and I just lay it on top of the glued one. Use my fingers to press it into place. And then I put the third layer behind. Use my fingers to kind of press it into place. Okay. Then you can use a block, you can use a magnet, you can use anything heavy and put it on top and let it dry. Now we're going to do the same thing with our placemat. I'm going to just layer it up and add another layer behind it to give it a little sturdiness. If you're using the hammer mill, I find the hammer mill's kind of lightweight. And sometimes just adding an extra layer behind some of your die cut pieces can really feel like luxe. It feels, you know, a little luxe, bougie. Scrap with Penny says she's doing great. I'm so happy. Okay. And I lied. We're going to have to die cut again because we didn't die cut our panel. Okay. I mean, like just add the texture. So we'll get that done. We'll put this on top of that. And then while those dry, I'm going to put my cap on my glue. We're going to take this panel. Let me tell you how big this panel is. It is 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And we're going to take the Stitched Diamonds cover plate die. We're going to add some texture to this. We like bougie cards. We like big cards and bougie cards, and we cannot lie. Okay, so I'm just going to place it right in the middle. I'm just going to center it up as best I can. If you feel like you want to add some tape to help it stay, you can. And I'm just going to take that panel that we had cut before class, and I'm going to run that through my die cut machine. And this is going to just add some texture to our card front. And I think something that's underrated on cards for men is texture. And there's a few ways to create texture. Number one is to add dimension. That got off a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about it. Number one is to add dimension. Number two is to add some ink blending, which we're going to do in the second card project. Now, the third way is really to use a cover plate or an embossing folder, or you could totally do like a tone-on-tone stamped pattern in the background as well. Okay, that's bothering me, so I have to redo mine. So you all have some time. 3 3/4 by 5 inches. Let's just cut a new one. I can't do the crooked. So if you're a little behind, I'm giving you a little moment to catch your breath here as I fix my mistake. 3 3/4 by 5. Perfect. Also, it is like, it's warm here. Okay, I'm just going to do it like this. Let's see if we can get it straight this time. Just going to do it like that. Run it through. Jody and I get to hang out in June. I'm excited about that. I like me some bougie cards too. I like me some elevated cards. I'm glad you guys are getting a giggle. Okay, that one's much straighter. We are much happier with that. And by we, I mean me. Okay. So we have that done. I should have done that earlier when we did all our die cutting. I'm gonna just put it under with the placemat to let it like kind of straighten out a little. Okay, we have our 2 large Pop-Tarts, okay? We're gonna take some warm buff on just one of them, okay? So set one of them aside, and we're just gonna add a little bit of color around the edge, okay? So we really only need it into like that dotted line, all right? Optional step, if you prefer to not have this blended edge, then you would just have a white cardstock base. We're making a shaped card for this first card. And so I thought it would be fun to just add a little bit of tone to bring in the pancakes and the biscuits and all the toast and the coffee and all that. But I don't need to blend this entire thing because we're going to put the textured panel in the center. So just a quick little blend around the edge. And we're going to wipe up our work surface because we don't want to get ink on anything else. And then we're going to take this. We're going to make sure that we have, so these are not exactly square. So you're going to want to make sure that you're positioning these the right way. I have kind of this more wavy corner up towards my upper left. And I'm going to take my second piece here and I'm going to score it at a 1/2 inch from the top. So a scoreboard or even your trimmer will work for this, but I have to find my scoreboard. It is not where it normally is. Okay, that's unusual. Okay, let's show you how to do it with the trimmer then, shall we? Oh, look, it just fell out of where my trimmer is. Okay, if you have a trimmer that has a groove in it, you can put this into your trimmer groove and then use a scoring tool. Do we need a second placement glued to the inked one? Placemat. You don't have to. That's optional. It's just adding some weight and some dimension and texture. So if you want it, yes. If you don't want it, no. Okay, so then what you would do is take your scoring tool and go right into that groove. I just have this edge lined up with the 1/2 inch mark and I'm just scoring at the 1/2 inch mark, okay? I don't always clean up, Kathy, but here's the deal. I don't want to make a mess with you guys. So now you have 2 options, 3 options really. On this, you're going to want to just fold on that line because this is going to make your shaped card. You can either do liquid glue, tape runner, which is not my first recommendation, or you can do like a strong sticky tape. Any one of those. Liquid glue would be fine, but you're only going to put adhesive above that score line, just on that tab you made. Okay, so I'm just going to take some sticky tape here and put it only above the score line. So do you see where my score line is? I only have adhesive above the score line. So if you're using liquid glue, again, you're only gonna put liquid glue above the score line. Then I can remove the backer and I can take my second Pop-Tart, line it up. I like to just nestle them together on my desk and then adhere them down. And that makes our shaped card. Now, the great thing about this is this still fits in an A2 envelope. So that's fantastic news for all of us. Now I'm going to take this cover plate piece that we created, and I'm just making sure. So I want it to lay right inside this dotted line, and mine's a little bit long for that. I don't know if you can see. I'm just going to trim like a hair off the bottom of this. I would use, let's use my guillotine. I don't want to use my wire guide because the blade needs to be replaced. So I'm just going to take this and just shave a little off. Let's see. See if that's enough. Okay. Just looking here. Did I get enough? I think I did. I could probably shave just teensy bits off of each side. Okay. So I'm just going to shave a teensy more. I mean, that was like hairline. And just a teensy off the width too. Just a teensy. That's what we call it. Okay. That way it will nestle right inside that dotted line. Then you can just take either your liquid glue or your tape runner or whatever, and you're gonna just adhere this down. So now I will tell you, the tape runner with all of the texture that's on that is not the best way. So liquid glue would probably be best, but I'm gonna go ahead and use tape runner just for time today. I can go back and liquid glue this on later, but I wanna get you guys through the cards. And so I'm just gonna use some tape runner. I'm gonna nestle it right inside the little dotted edge that we have. I'm gonna move that over just a tiny and place that down. Okay, question, which side does adhesive go on the Pop-Tart piece, front or back? On the front. So you want it on the front. You should create your score line on the front. Then you should add your adhesive to the top tab that we made on the front, and then put these where both front sides are facing up. Kathy, I hope that helps. Okay, so you can do this shaped card technique with any shaped dies you may have. Okay? Oh yeah, I should do the strips before I put that down. I'm gonna do it the hard way. Guess what? This comes up real easy. So what we're gonna do, you're right, Jen, thank you. So for those of you who have not put your strips on yet, go ahead and, or have not put your front panel on yet, go ahead and wait and do your strips first. So we're just gonna take these and we're gonna add them to our card front. So just a little liquid glue, just like that. And we're gonna put them at an angle. So I'm gonna put this, I'm gonna show you. See how I was able to rip that up so easily with the tape runner? So that's why I would really recommend like liquid glue. And I'm just kind of looking at my first one to kind of see where I went. And I went about like that. Okay, so just like that. Oh, there's something under there. Okay, so just at an angle. Then we'll do our lush forest one next. And what you can do is just kind of go along that line there and do just a tiny bit of liquid adhesive. And take your lush forest strip and you want to just butt it up against the other one, okay? And then we're going to do the rocky slope one, just a little liquid glue along that edge. And then put the rocky slope one. Thank you for reminding me about the strips, Jen. It's easier to trim if you do the strips first. Yes, I agree. But the written instructions did not have things like kind of in, like had, you know, stamp, then die cut, then stamp, then die cut. So I wanted to do things a little out of order. And I have them off to the side, mostly just for the colors. Then, so once you have your strips on there, then you can trim them off. If you've already put it on there, then I would just use a little pair of scissors and just sneak it under. So like, this is what I would do. If it was already on, like this, let's just pretend it's already on. Okay. Then I would use my small pair of scissors and I would just sneak it under and trim along that edge. And I did this the other day in a card project, but just kind of sneak that under, trim, just like that. Okay. So it can be done if you already put your thing down. You're just going to sneak it under those edges. Just don't glue it all the way to the edge. And just trim that off, just like that. Okay. So all is not lost if you already had it on there. Guess what? Then the human side, yes. That's why tape runner adhesive was my friend in this case. But as I said, not the end of the world. If you adhered it down, just sneak your scissors under there and trim at the edge. Okay, so now we need to do, I'm going to just bring this in. Let's just be real. And we're going to grab one of the large and one of the small stems. This small stem with the multiple, like 3 florals on the end. So that's going to go there. So we'll just start kind of adhering these down. Okay, onto the placemat. All right, that's just going to make our life easier. I don't think this is how I did it in real life. Okay, so I'm just going to take this, add some liquid glue. This is the stem. It's going down flat. Okay, just like that. And then this guy, a little bit of liquid glue. And he's going to come, I'm going to grab my handy dandy Pink Fresh tweezers, kind of right off the mat up here. So just kind of breaking the plane of that mat, okay? Then we're going to take our little spoon here. So one little spoon, and it's going to go kind of right here-ish, all right? So just a little liquid glue on that. And place that down kind of on that second scallop-ish, okay? Heavy on the ish. Oh, Teresa, thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here. Okay, I'm going to grab the better of the 2 plates. One is better than the other. And I'm going to start building my plate. So on my plate, I have foam adhesive on the back. Okay, so I'm going to start there and I'm just going to add my foam adhesive to the back. Okay, just a little bloop, just like that. I'm leaving that on, the backer on for now. Then I'm going to cut a couple little pieces for my pancakes and my croissant. So I'm going to pick my favorite pancake and my favorite croissant. And I feel like, let me just tell you, I feel like I want a little more yellow in this croissant. So before I adhere it, I'm just going to bump up the yellow. Okay. Then I'm going to grab this and add some adhesive. I'm going to add, now I know that this feels like it feels wrong, but I'm going to add my croissant and my pancakes before I add my silverware because I want there to be enough room. Okay. And I'm going to let these just like overlap. So these are my pancakes. So I'm just going to allow my pancakes to kind of overlap my croissant here. Just like this-ish. Okay. Then I have strawberries. Just going to grab those. And I'm going to put liquid glue on the back of the strawberries. Would you love to attend this brunch, Jody? Are you a breakfast person, everyone? Okay, I know like breakfast has like, there's like a certain fun element about breakfast, right? But like when I eat breakfast, my goodness, I just feel like I'm just all bloated for the rest of the day. So breakfast food, maybe because a lot of it's so carb heavy, like, well, all the good stuff's carb heavy, right? Maybe that's why I always feel just so like, whoa. So I'm not a big breakfast girly. All right, so my husband's home. He's in there banging around in the closet a little bit. He's probably unpacking. Then I have the little knife. We're going to go with a little bit of knife, a little liquid glue. And we're going to just kind of overlap here. I'm going to slide it under my strawberries, I think. Let's see. I'm going to pull up my strawberries for just a second because I think we may reposition those. Let's do the knife. Nutella on a waffle. My husband cooks me breakfast every weekday. 2 eggs over medium, sometimes avocado toast if I ask. What a guy. Now, I do love fried eggs, but generally I will eat them for dinner. Because I do intermittent fasting, honestly, every day of the week. So I'm an intermittent faster girl. Okay, now I'm going to take my plate, now that I have it all adhered, and I'm going to add it onto, do you see? It's kind of hanging off of this lower corner here. So it's not totally contained on the placemat. I'm just going to allow it to kind of overlap right here. Place that down so that has foam adhesive. And then we're going to add our little espresso mug, which this is my favorite piece of this whole thing. Again, with foam adhesive, but if you don't love that idea, then go ahead and add it with liquid glue. Okay. Liquid glue or foam adhesive, and we're going to just put it right here in the upper corner, just like that. Okay, so that's where we are. And then we're going to take our sentiment that we stacked up. And again, I'm going to add foam adhesive, but you don't have to, okay? Seriously, you do not have to. I know I'm extra. That is, this croissant's bugging me. I'm going to reposition him down just a little where you can see the edge of the plate a little bit more. Okay, perfect. I know I'm extra. I know that I like, as we mentioned, big cards, and I cannot lie. I like big cards and I cannot lie. Okay, so if you want to skip the foam adhesive on this part, do not feel guilty. You don't have to do it how I do it. If my hubby makes breakfast, it always includes bacon. I love bacon. If I make breakfast, it could be scrambled eggs, cereal, pancakes, or biscuits and gravy, or just toast. Love it. Okay, so I'm cutting down strips of foam adhesive and just placing it on the large solid areas of the back part of this. And I know it's going to overlap here where it's going to need a second layer of foam adhesive on the end of this happy. So I'm going to just put a double layer because it's going to hang off of the mat, and I have the mat on foam adhesive. Again, I know this is extra, but I just love me a good thick card. So it is what it is. Okay, so foam adhesive on that. I'm going to remove the foam backer, the adhesive backer on the Father's and the Day, and I'm going to place it right here-ish. Yeah, I think right there-ish. Okay, love that. Then I'm going to flip this over so you can see my double layer of foam is there. I'm going to take a single layer of foam, put it on the back of my placemat. I use foam sheets that I create on my own. All right, just looking at my super secret messages over here. Okay, so now that I have the foam on the back of the placemat, I'm removing the backer from that happy and from here, and then we're going to put this onto our card front just at an angle. Okay, just like that. Fabulous. And now we have our Pop-Tart shaped cards, which we could add some liquid glue on the back to make this stick. So if you didn't do this earlier, I'm going to do this now. Okay. So there we go. Do you all love it? Isn't this a fun card? I love a shaped card, and any like nested, essential, like basic shape, you can use this technique where you create a score line at the top of it and create a shaped card. And this, because it is smaller than an A2 card, will actually fit inside of an A2 envelope perfectly. So you're good to go on that. So card number 1 is done. Isn't that fun? Love that. And we've done all the hard work for card number 2. Are you guys okay? We have 30 minutes to get through card 2, but we've done our homework, and so we're good. So card 2, I have my card base, I have my sentiments die cut, and this is where we're going. Okay, so I'm going to start actually, and I don't know what the instructions have. Okay, I don't know if they do the embossing first or the blending first, but I'm going to recommend that you do the embossing first, and here's why. Once you put the ink down here for this blending, if you try to do the embossing powder, it's going to stick to this ink, and we only want it to stick to the edge of this. So we're going to do our embossing first, and then we're going to do our blending. So this is how we're going to do this. We're going to take, this is the second largest, it's not the largest, but the second largest, and we are going to take our Versamark ink pad, and we're going to just tap along the edge of this die cut shape. Okay, do you see what I'm doing? Just tapping. Now, the more extreme your angle is like this, the more of a gold edge you're going to get. So if you turn your pad more like this, you're going to get more ink. If you hold it like more perpendicular, you're going to get a really fine edge of gold. So you can kind of control the amount of embossing that you have by the angle of your pad. So once I go around the edge, then I'm going to take my same gold embossing powder, if I can find it. Did I put it back? Of course I did not. Oh boy. Gold embossing powder on the edge. So if you're there, go ahead and put your gold embossing powder while I look for it. I also have a couple of announcements for you while I look for my embossing powder. Isn't this fun? Isn't this fun, looking for my embossing powder? Number 1, on Friday, Kinnery will be posting a discount code for all of you. So be sure to look for that. It will be in the Facebook group. So if you're looking for that, that is coming Friday for you. And then also, I wanted to remind you, and I have some of it on my desk right now, there is a new Pink Fresh Studio release coming Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central. So if you have not planned for that already, then mark your calendar, turn on your alarm, because there are some fun things coming. And I've seen a few months worth of releases from Pink Fresh Studio, and let me tell you, I love some of the stuff that's coming out. Just some fun vibes. Okay, now if you feel like there is too much embossing powder in one area right now, is your chance to knock it off before you heat set it. So if you don't like that it's too thick in one area, then you can knock that off. I love this kind of like uneven edge that I have. I have it thicker in some areas and thinner in the others. I'm just gonna funnel this back into my jar, and I'm gonna put it back in my drawer so I know. I'm glad I'm not the only one, Jennifer, that cannot find the embossing powder. Okay, but I found it. I just had to clean up just a little. And I'm gonna go ahead and heat set that. I put it off to the side so that I wouldn't knock it, and then I'm gonna grab it with just some tweezers, and I'm gonna hold it, and then I'm gonna melt it. Yes, you can shop the new release right away because the discount code will not include the new release. They never do, the discount codes just never do include the new release. So you can shop Tuesday. You don't need to wait. And also, you know, the earlier you shop, the better chance you have of it not being out of stock. So I will just say that. And I still have one. Jody's probably wondering, I think I'm in the Instagram hop too, where my project is for that. And I haven't created it yet. So that's on my list of things to do for tomorrow, is my project for the Instagram hop, but I do have my blog hop projects ready. Indian River decks. Oh, that sounds so fancy. Okay. So now you have this beautiful gilded edge that's going to pull in our stamped images. Hold on. One spot that was not melted. Okay, I'm going to let it cool for just a second. And then we're going to add a little bit of ink blending, just kind of a little puff of color here. And I'm trying to remember which gray I used. Ink blend, Rocky Slope. Okay. So I'm going to do this. Even I have problems keeping all of the colors straight that I used, okay? But worst case scenario. So we're going to take this and we're going to build like a kind of angle down. So we're going to start about here and we're going to just build kind of a puff of color. This is going to give it a texture that, you know, kind of keep it from being too flat. We're just going to go in here, and it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to cover a large portion of this up with our grouping here. So you can see we're just going to have like a little bit of grouping here. This is definitely the more clean and simple, but just shows you that you can create large vignettes or even small vignettes with some of these images. And you're going to have extras, as I mentioned, that you can use. Okay. So I'm going to just call that good. I'm going to grab a scrap of white cardstock and we're going to stamp our Let's Toast to Friendship. Now I have 2 extra layers because I like the dimension. But again, if that's not something you want to do, it's not something that you have to do. So I just have a little scrap of white cardstock. And let's get my Misty stamping tool. And we're going to grab the sentiment that says, let's toast to friendship right here. These are such, I love this savor the small moments too. I actually had a really hard time choosing my sentiments for these cards, but I chose the toast on this one because you'll notice we did not use toast on the first card because we're going to use toast, 2 toasts here. And so I thought that was a fun play on words for this. Okay, so Lush Forest is the color for our sentiment here. A great way to bring in this pop of green for this card to bring in a little more color. Our sentiments don't always have to be neutral colors. We can make them in pretty colors too. Love the gilded edge and the gold embossed edibles. Isn't that fun? Jody, thank you. I have been a little busy. I'm a busy girl, but I love it. For those of you who do not know, I did not like, number one, first of all, I do not love the way my sentiment stamped. So we're going to grab another piece of scrap and we're going to redo it because that's what we do. We're not perfect. For those of you who do not know, I am not only an online educator and blogger and instructor. I guess that would be the most proper term. I'm not only an online paper crafting instructor, but I'm also a nurse. And I'm a busy girl. And I did take some time this week to do a little bit of something that kind of fills my soul, doing a little bit of hobby stuff, creating. Sometimes when you're creating as a profession, you have to refill your creative cup. And so I took some time to kind of do some stuff that like filled my creative cup. Okay, I like that. Nice, rich sentiment here. So I stamped that in the Lush Forest, and now I'm going to die cut it using the coordinating die. How are you all doing? Y'all good? I'm the worst at this. Okay, let's see. I'm the worst at finding the die that goes along with my sentiment. I'm always like, is that it? No, that's not it. Okay, so I'm going to hold this in place. What do you enjoy doing? Happy belated nursing week, cardigans and cards. I enjoy, as far as creative, I actually have a CO2 laser, and I do some laser crafts and that sort of thing. Okay, and then we're gonna do this. Now, we cut some additional layers. Again, this is something that's totally optional, but I love a little, like I said, Carissa likes big cards. And so we're gonna layer up the sentiments behind it. So we're gonna do the same thing. This is where we're going. This is where we've been. All right, we good. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that in the view for you guys by layering up these 3 sentiments. So just some liquid glue. And on both the front parts. Now I got all like in my head about what I'm doing here. Got quiet on you. All right, you guys, we're gonna finish up here. You are on the home stretch. If you have like sat through every class, you've got through every card, you are almost there. You are almost there. So now that I have liquid glue on the front side of both of those, I am going to add my stamped piece on top, line it up. Again, add that onto the second layer with the liquid glue on the front. Just make sure that I slide it all into place And then I'm just gonna take for just a second and just put my magnet over the top. You can use a heavy acrylic block or your die cut machine, whatever. And while that's drying, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and adhere this. So I'm gonna I use panels of foam adhesive. I create these on my own. And I just use like fun foam and some wide double-sided adhesive tape, and I just put it on the fun foam and then cut them down. So I trim that down. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Marianne. That's so good. I'm using the Pink Fresh glue. I believe this was the swag. Mine might be in a different container than yours. I think mine, the pictures of the swag, I think they look like maybe your glue came in a little different container than mine. Jody can let me know if I'm correct on that. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put this onto my A2 size card base. Okay, so I have my card base, making sure that it's all centered up here. And I'm gonna place that down. Okay, so that's ready to go. And now that we are kind of all glued up here, we're gonna start just building. I like to build from the front. So I'm gonna start actually adhering things to the back of this sentiment and then adding the foam adhesive behind. So I'm gonna take my 2 pieces of toast, a knife, a jam cup, have a couple of vines here. Where's my other toast? Okay. And then my other coffee. Espresso. You have a couple more things you can use. You have another stack of pancakes, another croissant. You have all the biscuits that you can still use on a whole other cart. I'm using the 0.5 pen style glue that is releasing Tuesday. This is from Jody. You got a 1 ounce container, so your container is bigger than mine. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna actually wait and put that on at the end. I'm gonna add a little bit of liquid glue to like the back side of this right there and just like up here, okay? Okay. The reason is I like to arrange from the front, and that allows me to take like my little toast, and I'm just kind of looking at my other one here. I'll bring it in for you, but I'm just going to add this guy here, like there-ish, okay? And then I'm going to add my other little toast here-ish, okay? That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to add my little knife. I'm going to add just a little more. Oops. You're loving the pen style for those detail pieces. Okay, and then the knife is going to come out kind of the bottom, like here. Okay, just like that at an angle. So I'm just building from the front, and I know that this can be kind of awkward for some people, but this allows me to really see where I'm going with this. And then I can add this here. So sometimes I'll hold it where I like it and then just sneak my glue between like that. So like I get it where I like it from the front and then just like kind of squeeze my glue there. And then once I have all like the little vine, the 2 toasts, and the knife there, then I'm going to flip this over and then I'm going to add my foam adhesive so that everything will be lifted up. I spent Jennifer's class doing the same yesterday. Replenishing my foam layers, so easy and inexpensive. I do love it. A few years back, like there was a change in the foam adhesive and I did not love it. And so this is what I ended up starting to do once that formula had changed and I didn't like it anymore. I craft well in the ish zone. My cards are both done. Adorable. I was most excited about breakfast with Carissa. Wonderful end to a fabulous event. Ironic that we're doing breakfast like at the end of the day, huh? Breakfast for dinner. And it's kind of ironic that my card is called Fresh, or my project suite is called Fresh Start, but we're at the end of the day. The end of the event. I'm so glad. Okay. I'm glad you're all here. You know, like, honestly, you are the heart and soul of these events. I love doing these events. I love being here, interacting with all of you. It is just, it really does. It's great. Who's having breakfast for supper tonight? All right. So I'm just putting foam adhesive on the back of my little jam cup and my little espresso too, because all we need to do now is add this just like this. And we are done with card number 2. And then I went through inking already. I wanted to show you something on my bonus projects. So stick around. So I'm going to show you that. Now, if I want to get this just right, I'm going to actually just adhere it to the back of the foam adhesive, just like that. So I know where it is. So it's stuck on the back of the foam adhesive, and then I can just add a little bit of liquid glue to this and then put this all on. I'm going to use my tweezers again because it just gets my fingers out of the way and allows me to get this all on here. And I'm just going to look down through, make sure. I broke my T-square yesterday, so that's not a thing right now. Maybe a little bit further down. So lower right third-ish, right there-ish. Yep. I also craft well in the ish zone. Then we're going to grab our little espresso. We're going to go right here with our espresso. And our little jam cup is going to come right out of the top. Oh, how fun, Wendy. Wendy just had leftovers from the fireman's breakfast this morning. What a sweet thing to do. Okay. That's card number 2, y'all. Give me a what in the comments if you got through it. The first like, you know, hour of our card projects were the hardest because we were doing all of that ink blending, right? I mean, that was quite a bit. I'm not going to lie. But now we have our man cards. Today is the day for matching nails. Carissa's nails match her cards and Yana's matched her cards. Actually, mine are, well, they might be a little yellowed out, but they're kind of like a light pink. I don't know. Anyway, I hope you love these cards. I hope you've been inspired by the color palette, by the different ways that we've created texture, whether it's through that gilded edge, the ink blending, the cover plate, various layers, various levels of dimension. All of these are great ways to bring in texture to a clean and simple or a masculine card to create a little bit of interest without leaving them too like flat feeling. So those are all just a few ways that you can take a masculine card and elevate it just a little bit. Add that little bit of gilding, add the shine with your embossing powder. So much fun. And I love this color palette because we have a lot of the neutrals, the browns, but we have the pops of green. We have the gray mixed with the browns. There's no rule that says you can't do, you know, grays and browns together. And then we have that pop of orange, which I think really brings, can you imagine if you did not have the orange? It would all fall a little bit flat, but with that pop of orange, the little bits of red in here, we really bring the color palette to life. I have about 10 minutes here left in class. And so what I really want to do is I want to answer any questions that you may have. So in the comments, if you want to put the word question in all caps and then write out your question, that will help me spot it. So I'm going to answer any questions that you may have. And then I'm going, while you're doing that, while you're typing that out, I wanted to show you how I created this moon from my make and take cards. These are my make and take cards. Again, I brought in the oranges and the greens on this one, but in a different concentration. And we brought in some brighter greens with this, with a darker orange. And I think this is so much fun. This is also a fabulous palette for fall. So I hope you all, oops, that was my trash can. No worries. I hope you all had a really good time creating. And I'm so glad you're here. Let's grab the Starlit Path die set. And I'm going to show you how I created this moon layer here. Because this is meant to be a crescent moon if you die cut it like this. But we wanted to create cards that used only the products from the class kit. And so I wanted to create a full moon. I'm going to show you how I did that without bringing any other like die sets in, because there are circle dies that you could do this with, but I wanted to show you how you can stretch this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this first question. When will the next retreat be? I honestly, Jody helped me with that. I'm not real sure. Question, can you just walk through what every breakfast item on the stamp set is? Yeah, give me just a second and I'll do that. Let me show you this part first. So I took a piece of white cardstock, or vellum, because I have layers here. And what I did was I took this and I just lined it up where these tips were at the edge of the cardstock. So actually this here is what creates the moon. So you're going to take this. The next event is Techniques for Card Makers, August 23rd and 24th. I believe I'm teaching at that one. So what you can do is just take it where those tips, you see how the blade hangs off the edge of the die, or off the blade hangs off the edge of the cardstock. Just take that, put it on your cardstock and run that through. And that's going to give you the perfect piece to create a full moon that's tucked behind. Now, of course, the bottom part's going to be flat because, you know, we're hanging it off. So you can't like have the whole thing, but that is that full moon right there. So when you tuck it behind the mountainscape, you have the full moon. And I've just die cut it out of some vellum here. I did a little bit of that gilded edge with the silver on the vellum layer. And then for this back layer, I ink blended with some grays, and I used the 1/4 inch blending brush to create some dots to give my moon some texture. So you see how that the darker grays are showing through that vellum layer, and then you have the little silver edge on that. Have I ever used alcohol markers with the stencils, acrylic markers or alcohol markers? Mariposa, I believe I addressed this earlier. I have not. Something to consider if you're using alcohol markers with your stencils is that the alcohol ink will dry on the stencils. And so in order to clean those, what you would need to do is take some rubbing alcohol to remove the alcohol ink from the stencil. So you would just clean them with some rubbing alcohol. A summer event, yes, it's going to be hot in the craft room then. What techniques will be used for the August event, Pink Fresh? I think that we are working on products right now that that are based on some techniques. And so I don't think that those techniques have been laid down totally yet, but you're going to get some, I believe, well, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to get in trouble, but anyway. Question, can supplies for these weekends be used for challenges on your website, even though other, yes. Retired sets, Rita, I think anything's fair game on the challenges, whatever retired sets or event kits, totally fine for the challenges. Registration will be announced via email and on social media for the August event, so make sure that you are signed up for emails at Pink Fresh Studio. Also, I wanted to remind you again, there is a brand new release coming Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central Time. That is noon Pacific, and that is 3 p.m. Is it 3 p.m. Eastern time. Yes, that would be 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, noon Pacific, 1 p.m. Mountain Time. Mark your calendars. A fabulous new Pink Fresh Studio release is coming Tuesday. And there will be a discount code that is shared on Friday. But keep in mind that discount code will not apply to the new release. So if you want something from the new release, you'll want to make sure that you grab it. Does anybody have any other questions? You know what? I'm not sure that this is, I'm not sure if watercolor is a part of that or not. Anybody have any other questions? I would love to answer them. I have about 4 more minutes before we go. Let's see. Do you know when the next event is going live for us to sign up? We answered that already. It will go out via email. I'm not sure if we have an exact date on that. Eva's marked her personal calendar, hopefully for not only the event that's coming in August, but also the release that's coming Tuesday. Question, I thought someone from Pink Fresh said the lantern would be for sale after with new stencils, but our stencils are included. I believe that all of this stuff is exclusive to the event, and I do not believe, I think we addressed this earlier, but Jody can let me know. I do not believe that there will be add-ons released to this. Breakfast items, let's do that. Watercolor is not part of the event, so we're going to do other techniques that are not watercolor. So for those of you who are intimidated by watercolor, don't let that keep you from signing up for the event, because that is not part of the event this time. Okay, so in our little breakfast thing, we have, you know what, I would guess that this is like a baby quiche, but it could be whatever you want, like a little tart. It could be a little pie. So really whatever your imagination is. These are biscuits or crackers, or they could be like mini pastries. I think you could stamp these and color in an area that had like some frosting, like a Pop-Tart, and create something really cute with that. This is a piece of toast. This is a croissant. This is a little, this could be 2 things. This could be a little coffee pod, or it's actually meant to be a little jam cup. This is an espresso. This is a stack of pancakes. This is a plate. And then of course we have the few stems in there too. Question, what's the one Pink Fresh product you cannot live without? Well, I do love my Pink Fresh tweezers. And I know that that's a crazy thing to say, but I really love that. I also love the elongated ovals. They are one of my favorites, but all of their essential dies are fabulous. So there's like blanket stitched, there's double stitched, there's new essentials coming in this release on Tuesday. So keep your eyes out for those. So that's probably one of my favorites, tweezers and the essentials. But of course, Pink Fresh Studio does a fabulous job with florals, and you know you cannot live without those florals. Love the gilding on your deckled edge rectangle, Carissa. Thank you for the class. Yes, I love the gilded Pop-Tart edge too. It's my favorite. On the original list of classes for the year, there was a watercolor class listed in the time frame for this class, and this class was listed for March. Yes, I believe we had to postpone the watercolor class just for unforeseen circumstances. So. Oh, the 1-inch blending brushes, Wendy. How could I forget those? The magic blending brushes. Of course, that's something I cannot live without. Yay, we can all celebrate. I'll bring the beverages. Thank you, Nancy, for bringing the beverages. I love that. Let's go back to the front cam, shall we? It is exactly 3 o'clock. We are ending in time. I am so glad you are all here. I hope you had a wonderful event. I'm glad that I could bring you into my studio. I hope you are leaving inspired with some new color combinations to try for your next masculine cards on your own, and some ways to add texture to your cards along with some dimension. So thank you all for joining me. I hope you've had a great event. And until next time, I hope you have, you know it, a fabulous day.